Hello and welcome to Aerial Savagery, where brutal opinions smack you in the face from above. My name is Janice from the Janice Project, here for this podcast of May, where we talk about everything in terms of movies, video games, anime, anything geeky and nerdy, and we give a brutal opinion from ourselves about the topics of today. So, with me always, first and foremost, is Gottard. Gottard, how are you doing, man?
Oh, I'm alright, how about you?
Yeah, not too bad, too bad. What have you been doing in your sort of neck of the woods lately?
Not a lot. I've been house sitting, so basically just watching TV shows.
Oh yeah, that's right. You told me off camera, off the record, that you were house sitting for your grandparents, right? They went off on holiday,
Yeah.
and you had like 4 TV series with you.
Yes.
Have you finished them all?
No, I've been trying to space them out, so I don't know. I've got more than 4 TV series, but, finished
More than enough.
Boku no Academia, though.
Ooh,
The
you talking
first
about the
one.
second series? Oh, the first season.
Yeah.
That's a good one. The second season should be coming up as well. And of course, I should be saying, our new co-host, which is TKReaper. TKReaper, how are you going?
Yeah, I'm still living, man. Still living.
Still living. Sounds kind of, I don't know. You sound as if like you've had a struggle lately.
No, actually, on that, I actually just recently got diagnosed with diabetes, so I've been kind of hit with that one left park.
Oh,
So
Oh, it's type 1 or 2?
wow.
I don't know yet. It's just confirmed that my body's unable to transform glucose into energy, which is confirmed diabetes. I'm just waiting for my next test just to confirm what type it's going to be and where I go from there.
Okay.
Oh wow! But with all the stuff that you were telling me as well, off the record, and you know that health regimen that you were going through, that could possibly rule out diabetes in the future, right?
Well,
In terms of
not rule it out necessarily, but just keep it we're very, very well managed.
yeah. And how are you feeling with all that? I mean, I know it's a bit of a dumb question considering that it is diabetes, but has it has it sort of disheartened you about everything, or is it just sort of a bit of a shock? You like you'd never thought you'd have it, or
No, I always suspect that I was at a high risk because it's in my family and all that. But just for me, it's not, with my personality and my attitude towards life. It's just we'll add it to the list and let's keep moving forward.
ah, that's right, yeah. And this is probably a good time to actually say, TK Reaper actually does have his own YouTube channel. Can you talk a little bit about that actually, just quickly?
Yeah, sure. So basically, on my channel, I just go through some mental health self tips and little tricks and things that I've picked up throughout my life that's helped me with my own mentality. And I just kind of talk about it from my own perspective and explain how I came across them, how they help, and how someone else can kind of bring that into their own mindset as well.
Yeah, so I'll be putting that in the comments below. Not even well, in the comments and in the description below, so you can definitely check him out. He just began recently, so I listen to them as well. So yeah, help support him by subscribing, liking, commenting on his videos as you've done with myself for the Janus Project. And yeah, and that'll be something that maybe anybody can benefit from, because I know we all fall, but what matters is how we get back up.
Exactly.
And last of all, this is a bit of a special episode because we're bringing in a friend of mine who I haven't seen in quite a long time, but I used to work with him. And he's actually all the way from Canada as we do this now. It's about Friday night, I believe, in Canada, around 9-ish or 10-ish. He is by the name of SMASHnGRAB. You can find him actually on PlayStation with a very high trophy count. So yeah, SMASHnGRAB, how is it going, man?
Hey, it's good, thanks, James.
What's been going down in your neck of the woods since the last time I saw you? The last time I saw you was when we were at that gaming tournament, but the last time I actually talked to you in this format was a long time ago, Destiny.
Yeah, Destiny.
What have you been doing lately? Because there's a lot of things that I reckon you should share. What have you been doing lately?
Just playing games, making games, watching too much television, reading too much comics. You know how it goes.
Which is actually a really good point, because the reason why I've actually brought Smash and Grab in on this is because one of our main topics today, or the main topic today, I think we can get a lot of insight with him. So, as with our format for Aerial Savagery, other than the brutal opinions, there is going to be swearing. That's a disclaimer, but probably mainly by me. So we're going to jump into the first couple of topics. Just some offhanded opinions I want to get from these guys that have happened during this month. A lot has happened in May. Obviously, it's Mad May. And one of those things that's happened is a lot of trailers have dropped. So if we want to start... Actually, we won't start from anywhere. We'll just say that a lot of trailers have dropped, beginning with Marvel's The Defenders, The Dark Tower, Blade Runner the movie has dropped. The trailer, sorry. Dunkirk has dropped as well, which is being made by Christopher Nolan. I want to begin with you, TKReaper, with the trailers that I was just talking about now. The Defenders, which is a TV series, The Dark Tower, a movie, Blade Runner, and Dunkirk. I mean, there's a plethora of other trailers that have probably come out, but out of these four, does any of those sort of appeal to you?
Straight off the bat, I've got to say Dunkirk is probably standing out to be the biggest in my view.
Any particular reason why? Because I mean, with Dunkirk, that's coming out or that looks as if that it's going to be focusing mainly on. Is it it's been a while since I've actually seen it. It's like the British side, right?
Yeah.
The Allies in the Battle of Dunkirk, or I'm actually not too familiar with it.
Yeah, so that's actually the reason why it piqued my interest, is because I'm a bit of a history nerd myself, and essentially what the movie's taking place is that during the early days of the Second World War, Britain put out all their forces towards aiding the French forces in trying to repel Germany from coming in from the east. And essentially they had a battle plan, everything was set out, but they unexpectedly, kind of in a way, they kind of went in not really thinking about what the German force is going to be like. And where Dunkirk's taking place is that the Allies have realized that they've got no chance in hell of holding back the German advance. They were attempting to retreat through southern France and through the areas, and Germans end up surrounding them, and essentially what we're going to see on the movie, if they do it right, is essentially fear, chaos, anarchy, brotherhood. It's going to be brilliant, because essentially historically the British Navy's forces weren't as successful as withdrawing out the troops as they could have been, because the German Air Force were much closer for their base. So a lot of British ships were being taken out left, right, and center, which was kind of narrowing their way of getting out. And essentially a call got put out to England to say, these are our troops, they're stuck, we need help. And essentially everyday Britishmen with just dinghies, sailboats, any sort of boat they had, started sailing out with Dunkirk to try and bring these boys home and try and continue the war effort from home. So if it's done right, and I trust Nolan to do this, because in my opinion, he's probably the best director to do this, just because he's going to get that emotion really down packed. And I think I'm really looking forward to it in the end.
Yeah, shit, I'm sold already. I'm sold. Just by that explanation, I'm fucking sold. Wow. Moving with you, Gottard. Out of those four, The Defenders, The Dark Tower, Blade Runner, Dunkirk, those sort of trailers, any of those sort of appeal to you, or none of them have been on sort of your radar?
They haven't really been on my radar. I unfortunately have committed the sin of never actually watching the original Blade Runner, but I'm quite interested in watching it. I should probably watch the first one first, but Dunkirk is interesting to me because of the recent film, not so recent film, Hacksaw Ridge, that was released last year. It sounds,
yes,
from what TK's just told us, it sounds very similar. So there was a lot of stories like this, or, not a lot, but a few stories like this that came from World War II. So I'm wondering whether this might be the start of a trend.
You could be right, considering that I think war movies have sort of died in the last couple of years. Maybe in the last, I shouldn't say couple of years, but war movies have not really been coming out. So Dunkirk could be reviving it. That's a really good point. For me, looking at these sort of four sort of trailers, I recently finished Luke Cage and Iron Fist, so the Defenders I'm really looking forward to, and the Dark Tower I'm looking forward to because I'm really, really curious about it. I have no idea about the Dark Tower. I've tried to do some research on it. I know there's way more research I gotta get into, so that's something that I'm really interested in. Blade Runner and Dunkirk. I have to get into Blade Runner. The first movie confused me, but I watched that when I was young, so I didn't really understand most of it. So I gotta re-look into that. And Dunkirk, I'm pretty much sold with what TK just told me. I wasn't really too interested in it, but the way that he said it like that and the trailer. I was a bit confused by the trailer because I didn't know the historical importance of it. I'm totally sold. So yeah, TK. Wow, damn man. That really changed my mind so quickly. But what about you, Smash and Grab? I've got a feeling I know what you're going to say, but I still want to hear it. So the Defenders, the Dark Tower, Blade Runner, or Dunkirk. Any of those appeal to you? I've got a feeling quite a few of them do.
Yeah, honestly, all of them.
I knew it. I knew he was going to say all of them.
Like TK alluded to, man. Like Christopher Nolan's an exceptional director, so I'll watch anything that guy puts out. Blade Runner, we kind of talked about it before we started too. The director of that film is it Dennis Villeneuve, I think his name is.
Dennis Villeneuve. Yeah.
Villeneuve. Yeah, he directed Arrival, which is my favorite film of last year. So I'll check that out. Defenders,
yeah,
Netflix are knocking it out of the park with the Marvel stuff. So that's gonna be awesome.
Mm-hmm. It's really funny that you mentioned about not funny but coincidental about Arrival and Dennis Villeneuve because I only just watched Arrival a couple of days ago. I'm catching up on some of the movies of 2016 and I just watched that. It was fucking amazing. Just in terms of the story, and I was definitely shocked in the middle of it. With everything that happened. I don't know. Did anybody else watch Arrival here? Gottard or TK? Did you guys watch that?
No.
No. You TK?
Yeah, it's still on my list though.
Still on the list. Okay, so I won't say anything, but yeah, the amazing movie. So I totally understand what you were saying, but I had a feeling you were gonna say all of them because I know Smash and Grab. There's no preference
I guess
for him.
The wild one in the bunch there for me is probably I haven't read the books, but I've read the graphic novels that Marvel put out a few years back. It's Stephen King, and Stephen King's so hit and miss. Stephen King can either be exceptional, with like The Shining, or it can be like Tommyknockers and just be garbage. So I get,
okay. Sorry, you meant the Dark Tower. Because the line just sort of dropped out a bit.
Yeah, sorry, the Dark Tower. Yeah. So with Stephen King, it can go either way, So it's a good cast. Yeah, should be good.
Because with the Dark Tower, Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba, yeah, and they've had a good run, both of them. Now those are the trailers that have sort of dropped that sort of I wanted to talk to you guys about. Movies that have come out in this month. Well, the main sort of big hit is Alien Covenant, Pirates of the Caribbean, and unfortunately here in Australia, not in Canada because it was released way in advance in America, John Wick Chapter 2. Now, the reason why I sort of talk about these movies is I think out of all four of us, two of us have not seen Alien Covenant. Is that correct? I think it was you, Smash and Grab, and Gottard. You haven't seen Aliens Covenant?
No, I have not.
And I know TK and I have seen Aliens Covenant, and the reason why I'm sort of separating this is because, just for let you viewers know, I want to start something very new, which would be another podcast about brutal opinions about movies that we've seen, and I want to do that jointly with TKReaper. So I thought I'd just sort of squeeze that in because you'll be seeing an episode of that very, very soon, where we go completely raw on Aliens Covenant. Actually, I want to go raw. I don't know about how TK wants to be, but I feel like I want to go raw because I've got a lot of stuff to say about that. Pirates of the Caribbean. I want to begin with sort of you, Gottard. What's your thoughts on, say, Pirates of the Caribbean? Is it something that they should have ended a long time ago, or are you planning to see the movie?
I plan on seeing the movie, but I am of the opinion that they probably should have ended it at the third, or possibly the second. but I'll still
Because-
see it because it's one of those films for me. It's like an Adam Sandler. It's still got its moments.
You actually compared Pirates of the Caribbean with Adam Sandler?
That's awesome.
Shit,
might have.
man. Shit, not even I would have done that.
Really?
I get that, man.
Actually, I probably would have.
because like Pirates of the Caribbean, I'm not going to pay to go and see it at the movie. You know, if it's on TV.
Yeah,
I'll
I was
probably
actually
watch
going
it,
to. Interesting enough, I was actually going to come to you next, SMASHnGRAB, because for me, the reason why I sort of posed that question to Goddard is I'm kind of just I was over it by like the third film, and the fourth one just did not get me. I'm just like, I kind of want my 2 hours back. Like I just didn't like it. What about you, TK? What are your thoughts on say Pirates of the Caribbean? Is that something that you want to go and see? Are we just being negative Nancy's about it?
Oh god, no. They're just beating a dead horse. To be honest, it was done and dead after the third.
Oof. Shit. All unanimous. Yeah. Okay.
Savagery, man.
The last one, a bit of savagery, but it's really funny how I could get a unanimous verdict on that. Oh, Jerry Bruckheimer and Johnny Depp, you gotta give it up. Now, the last one that I just sort of want to talk about out of the movies, that came very late to our shores was John Wick, Chapter 2. I want to begin with you, SMASHnGRAB, because I remember I actually messaged you on Facebook about this, and you told me you fell asleep.
Twice.
So what happened? Twice? What happened?
I've tried to watch it twice now. I've fallen asleep both times. I don't know, man. It wasn't resonating with me.
Really?
I'll give it a third
What
shot.
did you think of what did you think of the first one though?
Yeah, it's an action film. It is what it is.
But nothing too much. Nothing.
No, man. Like I don't
Kind
know. I like films with like wicked visual effects and stuff like that. You know, and it's got great choreography. You know, it's well done. It's just I don't know. It's not my thing, I guess.
Totally understandable. I've got a ridiculously other opposite view on that. But what about say? Actually, no. TKReaper and Gottard. You guys haven't seen John Wick, have you?
I've seen the first one.
Oh, the second one. Sorry, Chapter 2.
I've not
No,
seen
haven't
either
seen
of
it.
them.
No. It seems like I'm the only one that actually kind of really like it, but that's kind of awkward.
Oh, no, don't get
You know
me
what?
wrong. The first one was actually great in my opinion. Like, personally, just from reading the backstory behind it and Keanu Reeves, commitment to learning all the skills he needed to know to actually make it seem like he was a legitimate person in that film, I have the utmost respect for him to done it, and he delivered it in the first one. Like his handling of weaponry, his hand-to-hand combat skills, situational awareness was, it was mind-blowing, and I have utmost respect for him for doing that. And I will see the second one once I get a chance to do it, and I'll make my opinion after that.
True. I gotta get movies that we gotta discuss that everyone's seen, because it's just like, have you seen it? No. This is awkward. No, it's just not gonna work. But for me, John Wick Chapter 2, I think, yes, it delivers from the first film. But the main reason why I've sort of brought it up is some people that have been part of sort of this channel where this is going to be released are from different countries, and they just be like, wait, why are you talking about John Wick now? John Wick Chapter 2 was supposed to have come into our shores in April. So it was like a month later after 2 months later after its initial release date, because it came out on February 10th. Long story short, the distributing media here in Australia that was supposed to do it thought, nah, fuck it. We're going to put it on straight to DVD like the first movie. I don't believe John Wick, the first movie, was out in cinemas. And then they just said that they wanted to put it straight to DVD.
I mean, that's kind of weird, man, because I've been noticing like seems like you guys get films a lot quicker than we do up here.
Well, I mean, some exceptions. I know there's some exceptions, but like 90% of the time, I mean, it's dedication to America and Canada first, and then Australia's just like, eh. But I know that
Wonder Woman, like that's been out for a few days already in Australia.
No. Well, yes, it came out on Thursday.
Right. And Guardians was out like a couple of weeks before we got it. So it's kind of weird, eh?
That's actually a little weird. I wouldn't think Guardians would have been coming out in Canada first compared to us, considering. But I don't know how it works. But there is some exceptional times where we get it first. And in terms of John Wick, they finally decided to put it up in movies now after a massive backlash on the development, the distributing company's Facebook page. So that's kind of the reason why I'm talking about John Wick, is because I mean this movie would have made a great ton of money, and in February 10th or in March when it was supposed to be released for Australia. But now with, I mean, myself, I wanted to go see it, but unfortunately somebody decided to be all Pirates of the Caribbean, and I've seen it already before going to seeing the movie, so it's a bit of a shame. So I don't know, it's just something I wanted to sort of look into because it deserved better. The next sort of topic I want to talk about, and I should have said this at the very first part of the show, Sir Roger Moore passed away this month. Sir Roger Moore, of course, one of the James Bonds of his time, highly debated whether he was the better one compared to Sean Connery. At the time, we can't really compare them to Pierce Brosnan because Pierce Brosnan was in the 90s. But yeah, Sir Roger Moore for me, I actually didn't know him from Bond. I knew him from a lesser known movie called Cannonball Run. And I saw, I recently rewatched Cannonball Run. It's such a great movie, or movies, because there was two of them. But I saw him in a trailer, which was actually on an old VHS tape for. I had The Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars, and there was a trailer leading up to the movie on those VHSs. And it was for Cannonball Run, and some guy, I don't know what's happened. Some guy goes up to him. He's like, "Who are you?" He's like, "I'm Roger Moore," and the guy's like, "What?" And he goes, "I'm Roger Moore," and the guy just knocks him out for no reason. So that's how I sort of knew him, and then I've followed him through James Bond and stuff, and phenomenal actor, and worthy of the title of being knighted as a Sir. So I wanted to just sort of go around the panel here and say, begin with you, SMASHnGRAB. What was sort of your first sort of inkling with Roger Moore, and sort of, is there any sort of favorite standout moments that you had from him in sort of movies, or just sort of what it was like in terms of on the screen for you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Bond side of things, I was always more of a Sean Connery fan, and even Daniel Craig of later days, I think, is an exceptional Bond. It's funny, Cannibal Run, man, I haven't thought about that movie forever. It's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
I wouldn't say I was a huge fan of Roger Moore's work.
What about you, Gottard? Anything that sort of stands out with Roger Moore for you, or again, is it sort of like, you've known him from the Bond series, and he was just sort of that guy?
No, actually, I'm like you, except a little different. I never watched James Bond, but I adore the Cannonball Run, and I did actually watch it. I think it was last week as well. So
right, how good is Cannonball Run?
It's the best.
We just can't. We're never gonna get movies of that sort of caliber like that. I don't know any other sort of movies that have like rich people, shit. But like that idea of like having people race between points to points to win a big sort of cash prize in the end, and that's what Cannonball Run was like.
So was it the first Cannonball Run or the second one where it's got the orangutan driving the limousine?
I think it was the second one.
Okay, yeah, that's the one I've seen then.
But the first one, whoa, because actually, before I go on to my next point, what about you, TKReaper? Is there any sort of things that Sir Roger Moore has sort of piqued your interest, or again, James Bond was fondest memory for you? Or
actually, no, my fondest for Roger Moore was him in Maverick, which was back in like '62. So
oh shit, wait, so Maverick is in like, that was the one that settled with the reboot with Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster. He was the original Maverick.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, so back in, it was 57 to 62, the original TV series, and he appeared in it for 16 episodes, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And he played Beauregard Maverick. So, yeah, that was actually my first introduction to Roger Moore, and like when I was very, very, very young, I was watching it with my grandfather. And yeah, I really kind of enjoyed that TV series, and then saw him in a couple of Bond films. I've never really been a big Bond man myself, So like seeing him in Bond was just kind of for me. Like comparing him to Maverick to Bond, in like from my seeing him, I enjoyed him a lot more in Maverick than I did as him as a Bond. So that's where I come in with it.
Okay, no, totally understand, because when you talk about TV series, I almost forgot that he also did a TV series called The Saint.
Yes.
So yeah, The Saint is one that my father thoroughly enjoyed, and he always talks about Sir Roger Moore in that sort of format. My next point, sort of going back to the Cannonball Run topic, was I don't know if everybody remembers, but a young Jackie Chan was in Cannonball Run.
He certainly was.
Yeah, right. I was just like, damn, and I can't, and I'm pretty sure he returned. Pretty sure he returned for the second one, but it's been a while since I've seen the second one. I only watched the first one like a couple of weeks ago, so I'm just like, okay, I gotta rewatch that again. But again, Sir Roger Moore, couldn't believe I forgot about the Saints. So everyone here, he. The reason why I talk about him is, I know a lot of celebrities pass on, every day, every month, and he was just one of those guys that sort of, was one of the big names. So he's touched everyone in some sort of format. The last sort of movie news that I just want to talk about here, just quickly, is Resident Evil is going to get a reboot with director James Wan. Now, James Wan did the movies for The Conjuring, Aquaman, the upcoming Aquaman, the Mortal Kombat reboot, and he also was the one that was responsible for co-directing the first Saw movie. I want to begin again with myself with this news, because Resident Evil, those 6 movies, fuck off. Like, they were just... After the second one, I'm just like, I don't know what Paul W.S. Anderson was doing. Maybe he was trying to keep Mila Jovovich in a job. I totally understand that. But I just didn't like the direction that they went. And with the news of a reboot, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. One, I think it's too soon. And 2, I mean, where else could they go with this? I think they may have lost a lot of fans from the first 6 movies, and I don't think a reboot is a good thing to go with. But from a gaming perspective, I want to go with you first, SMASHnGRAB. Not from a gaming perspective, but what did you think about Resident Evil, the movies, and what do you think about a reboot in the works?
Yeah, look, Resident Evil 1 and 2 were all right adaptations. Yeah, like you said, they kind of flogged that horse a bit too much. Is it too early for a reboot? Maybe. I think a reboot, like, it's if you look at the gaming, like if you compare it to the games, like Resident Evil 7 that came out this year, or the end of last year, was an exceptional game that took a new setting. It kind of moved away from that Umbrella Corp underground base kind of thing, and threw it into this almost like True Detective, like Southern Voodoo kind of weird sort of tone. So if the films kind of took that sort of step and went to a different place and a different narrative in that regard, it could be a good thing.
What about you, TKReaper? Resident Evil movies, I'm a big fan of the gaming sort of genre of it, but the movies, as I've said, pretty annoyed by it. What are your takes? What is your take on the idea that there's going to be a reboot so quickly after Resident Evil's finished, including the director James Wan, who is now, I mean, he's a staple in Hollywood that would be, say, directing this sort of reboot. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, like with the original films, I kind of slot them in to the same panel as Pirates. First 2, they did okay. They, done some pretty good visuals, some really great action sequences. Really did put Milo on the map of the world, and I think really yet again just beating a dead horse after the 3rd film. As for the reboot, to be honest, like if it's gonna have a new director, a new one, and I mean, if I was ever gonna do a reboot, I would be doing it at this time as well. I mean, you're looking at it, people are just like, you know what, Resident Evil's dead and done. And if I was going to be brutally honest, if I'm going to do a reboot, I want to do it at the same time that everyone's starting to hate on something and just literally crush the originals and bring out a new run of it. And that way, when people sit there and go, oh, wow, this reboot's great, fuck everything else, that's all done and dead, I'm all for the reboot. I'm gonna keep an eye out for it, and if it does well, and hopefully it does. I mean, I'm not gonna hold my breath or anything, but if it does, and he can crush the original, then good on him.
And what about you, Gottard? I mean, considering that, going back on what TK was just saying, in terms of crushing, apparently the 6 movies, as per some information that I have here, the 6 movies have made $1 billion since its first running, since the first movie. So, what are your thoughts about a reboot on this? And did you ever consider Resident Evil possibly as a good 6 movies, sextuplet bunch of movies, or
I didn't personally. I watched the first one and it didn't grab me, and then I watched the second and it just lost me, and then I didn't even know that there were 7 films. But I enjoyed the games. What little I did play of them. 7 was huge for me. The whole first person's perspective is how I enjoy my games, so that was brilliant. And the TK's mention about the crushing the previous would, in my eyes, that would be a brilliant thing if they could manage that, because that's sort of what happened with the Amazing Spider-Man series for me. I never really liked the first 3 Spider-Man films. But then the Amazing Spider-Man I thoroughly loved. So if they could pull that off with this, it'd be brilliant, I think.
Really? So you didn't like the Tobey Maguire trilogy, but the one with the guy from Hacksaw Ridge, I think his name was Garfield. You liked that particular one, those 2 movies?
I did, yes.
Interesting, because I'm completely the opposite.
Really?
I didn't. Yeah, legit. Like Garfield, I don't know. It just didn't sit well with me. And Tobey Maguire, yes, they were old for their time to be playing them as well. But I don't know. Tobey Maguire just laid down that staple. I didn't like it. I didn't like the Spider-Man 3 one where he went all fucking emo and weird. But Tobey Maguire was like, I don't know. He just seems better than Andrew Garfield. That's really interesting. Does anybody have the same thoughts on with me, or did everybody like the Tobey Maguire? Like SMASHnGRAB, what did you think of the Spider-Man films?
I thought Andrew Garfield was a bit of Spider-Man. I think Sam Raimi was a better director of the first 2 for sure. The third one, like you say, with that like weird emo Spider-Man, and even even the second Andrew Garfield film kind of jumped the shark where they're trying to push too many characters on people at the same time, which is the same problem that Suicide Squad had, where you're expecting people to get their head around, a bunch of different enemies. So, I mean, just sort of going back to Resident Evil, though, like Gottard, you were saying, with Resident Evil 7, the game, in knowing that James Wan, who basically created Saw as a franchise, which is another franchise that kind of went on for far too long.
Ooh.
But that kind of tone that Saw had, that sort of psychological horror thriller.
Yeah.
In the Resident Evil setting, with knowing what you know with Resident Evil 7, the game, I can see those 2 pairing up real well,
Especially
and it being more of a horror film,
Yeah, especially seeing as I have to disagree with you about Saw going on too long. I absolutely love all 7 of those films. The 7th film is actually my second favorite.
Oh my god! Really?
Yeah.
Because I guess I only watched the first 2 and I tried to do the third one and I had to stop. Like, I don't know. I got legit like tired, and the kills were just like, oh, it was kind of like getting on my, like, not annoying me, but I'm just like, oh, this is just getting way too visceral.
Which is fair enough, because I tried to go back and rewatch them recently and I couldn't finish the third one. But
oh, there you go.
Yeah, I've matured apparently. But the story behind it was what grabbed me the first time, and it develops very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think the tone as well, like that. I think is you can draw some real parallels between that and Resident Evil, where it's going in its direction as a game.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. It could go either way.
We shall see.
Time will tell. Now, going away from TVs and movies, I was going to jump into anime, but there's just way too much happening in the anime world. So we're going to skip into some games just quickly. Overwatch, so Blizzard's baby, or modern baby. Overwatch has been told or revealed that within the 12 months that they've been operational, they have made $1 billion. That's a big astronomical amount of money, considering I'm one of those people that bought the special editions, and I haven't touched it for a while, so hopefully I'll be punching out some videos on that as well on my channel. Awkward. But with $1 billion for a game that's been made in under 12 months, this is really interesting because I actually want to start again with you, SMASHnGRAB, considering that we're not going to drop any names. You do work for a respectable company in the gaming sort of industry. $1 billion in less than 12 months. Is that something... I mean, it's stupid to say as a question that it's a success. But what are your thoughts on, say, like $1 billion in 12 months? Is it, you know, as an experience of gaming, have you gamed with it as well? Do you think that it's worth that billion? Or what are sort of your takes on it?
Phenomenal numbers. I think they're saying something like 30 million players playing Overwatch now.
That's correct. Yeah, just over 30 apparently.
And
yeah.
From what I read, I think it's their Blizzard's like $6 billion IP, something stupid like that.
That should be correct.
Honestly,
considering
I've played Overwatch intermittently. I haven't I don't play it. I don't own a copy of it. But what blew me away was I didn't realize how massive it was until I went to a comic convention, and there was a ton of cosplay that I didn't recognize, and I figured it was like maybe some anime that I'd missed or something like that. But it was like there was like heaps of people rocking the same characters, and I said to a buddy of mine that was there, I was like, yeah, "What's the deal with all these people, man? Like this is something." He's like, "Oh, that's all Overwatch," and I was like, "Fuck, okay." Clearly, like if it's resonating that widely, then there's something there, and it's a credit to them that they've made something like that is able to kind of cross over with so many different types of players, so yeah, it's strong, man. It'll be interesting to see, like, because I know that whole like live gaming, like that live service is like a big thing, with what Destiny's trying to do, and especially with Destiny 2 coming out, where it's that you buy the game and it's a game that you're still playing like a year later. So keeping people engaged for that kind of time is being able to pull that off is a real credit to them.
I would have to agree with it as well, considering that I purchased a special edition, and I played the hell out of it in the first couple of months. I took a break from it because I guess that I was disencouraged by not the game itself, but when I was playing ranked, I was getting my ass whooped, and I got disencouraged, disenchanted, whatever you want to call it, and I just sort of haven't returned back. But I got the special edition because it just looked amazing. And I remember in the lead up to, I believe it was E3 2015, when it first was announced. Yeah, E3 2015. It just looked amazing. And I had a feeling that it was just going to be massively successful, and lo and behold, less than 12 months of them being operational, $1 billion. More power to them. TKReaper, I don't know. I got to admit now, and I'll probably say for the record, I'm not entirely sure of your sort of repertoire in the gaming world, but what are your thoughts in terms of like saying, a company like Overwatch, a game like Overwatch, which is made by Blizzard, who's done like World of Warcraft, and League of no, not League of Legends, but World of Warcraft, in this success, what are your sort of thoughts on it?
Well, like in regard to the success for Overwatch, it really doesn't surprise me because they've pumped out such brilliant games, especially World of Warcraft. Then they expand out into Hearthstone, which kind of branched off from World of Warcraft, and that's been a really big success too. So it didn't really surprise me that Overwatch coming from Blizzard has had that success. I'm not really into Overwatch myself. I had like that free weekend trial they done a couple months ago, and it just didn't resonate with me. I still play World of Warcraft. I'm still really enjoying that, and from hearing $1 billion from Overwatch, that just excites me because I know they're smart with their money, and I know they're going to reinvest that into all their projects. So I'm very interested to see where they're going to take it from here.
And you, Gottard, I mean, I can't remember. Do you have Overwatch?
I do. I used to play it a lot, actually.
I remember. I think I added you and I forgot to play with you. That's really funny.
I think by the time you found out that I played Overwatch, I was tapering off on it anyway, unfortunately.
Yeah. But what are your thoughts on this? I mean, considering that, I mean, $1 billion in 12 months in Overwatch and the way that it sort of appealed to you. I mean, one of the things I should just quickly interject with is that Overwatch appealed to me is not only just for its look, but I got a feeling it, and this is a pretty big call, it felt kind of anime-ish to me. That's sort of what appealed to me. So every time like they do the special moves, they yell out this thing, and just the way they're designed, including the videos. Like the videos, like the still drawings, is sort of resonates with anime. But the short movies that they've done, funnily enough, resort to 3D animation like Pixar. So would you? My question to you, or questions to you, Gottard, is how do you feel about $1 billion in 12 months, as well as is Overwatch something that you'd be wanting to jump back into as well, considering this news?
I probably wouldn't jump back into it. It's basically, for me, it's in the same league as League of Legends, where I'll pick it up and I'll play it for a bit and I'll hit like maybe Silver 2 and then I'll just be like, done. But it frankly doesn't surprise me at all that they've made so much money. As you said, it is actually very anime. And as well as being anime, they've basically picked up on the core concepts of free-to-play games. And
right,
a huge thing is Team Fortress 2. The parallels between Overwatch and Team Fortress 2 are huge. Besides the anime thing, they both released short films that introduced each character. They have quirky, weird abilities each, and they all sort of fall into a role. They're all pushing points and taking flags. It's a team deathmatch tower defense. It's not free to play, of course. You have to purchase the game up front, but yeah, it's pretty much like a near perfect formula.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a good comparison with Team Fortress and that visual style, where it's almost like if you look at the games that were coming out around the same time that Overwatch came out, it was a real big push, especially within first-person shooters, to have like this ultra realism, super high polished graphics. And they kind of took a step back and went, the only other game I can think of around that time that was doing something similar was probably Borderlands.
Actually, not Borderlands, Battleborn. Battleborn came out almost the same time, but the trouble was washed.
Yeah,
partially because
that visual style where it was kind of like it wasn't super high fidelity,
cartoony.
Yeah, cartoony, and obviously you don't have the hardware requirements, which makes it accessible to a lot more people as well.
Also, the primary reason I think why it crushed Battleborn is that they took a leaf from a lot of the free-to-play games where you don't have to sit there and unlock all the characters. They give you all of the characters to start with, whereas in Battleborn, you had to unlock as you went. So you couldn't just sit down and go, oh, he looks cool, play them, and then go, oh, no, I'll switch out to this person. You couldn't really do that in Battleborn, whereas Overwatch, complete freedom in that sense.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, you've still got your microtransactions and your RNG element to unlock your cosmetics, and that's like you say, getting everyone off. When you start, it's a huge advantage. And
man,
as well, like Blizzard as a brand is, we've touched on with Warcraft, Starcraft, Diablo, Hearthstone, like they're kind of like Rockstar in that regard. You're willing to take a leap of faith in something they put out because of their track record.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't call it as a leap of faith, but you just feel as if like it's AAA when it comes from them. It's AAA gaming, and the fact, and actually, sorry, on a side note, oh man, like the fact that I forgot about Battleborn sort of just like reiterates when you say that it got crushed by, Overwatch at the time. Like that says a lot. Like I completely forgot about it, and I wanted to play that game, and I'm just like, this is a bad time to release it when Overwatch comes out against Blizzard. Like,
you imagine
David and Goliath thing.
Those guys felt, and it's kind of like the whole what are those movies, Armageddon and Deep Impact. You know, the production time on a production time on a game like this is probably 3 years, 4 years, 5 years that they're working on it. To go that far and then someone comes out with exactly the same thing at the same time, like,
but better.
Oh yeah,
that's tough.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's Blizzard, and it was a complete David and Goliath moment. But in this particular case, Goliath squashed the fuck out of David. So I'm sorry, Battleborn. I completely forgot about you. So
Yeah.
Moving on.
I was at PAX and I saw them, like, PAX that year when it was released. I walked up to the Battleborn booth sort of thing that they have set up with all the computers so that you can try it out. And at the time, there was as big a crowd at both Battleborn and Overwatch. But
oh wow!
once it actually came out, that obviously didn't hold.
No, that's the big difference between the hype and then the real product. Moving on from Overwatch, just quickly, big announcement by Ubisoft, which I think it kind of blindsided a lot of people. They dropped Far Cry 5 trailers, and some smaller, you could kind of say semi-trailers in regards to highlighting possible key characters that you'll be interacting with Far Cry 5. Now, I think I did talk about this, I think, in our first podcast with you, and I'm going to begin with you, Gottard, because between you and I, you would be the one that's played more of Far Cry, is that right?
Yes.
And how do you feel about Far Cry 5, considering that they've just dropped this during this month?
I see, when I first heard about Far Cry 5 trailers, I went looking and I found fan trailers. I didn't actually find any official trailers, so I just gave up. I thought it was, like, back in the day, I used to follow everything Fallout before Fallout 4 came out because I was waiting for the next one. But yeah, I just dropped it. I'm just like, all right, that's it. I'll just wait. I'm sure there'll be an official trailer. But I've played Far Cry since the release of the first Far Cry, which is completely different to all of their follow-up games. But up until Primal, I played and completed every single one of them 100%. I loved Far Cry 1. I loved Far Cry 2. 3 felt like 2. 4 felt like 3. So I just skipped Primal because it didn't have guns in it, basically. But I haven't actually seen anything on 5. But if it is following the same formula, it'd be nice if it's a little bit different this time, maybe. We'll see.
Well, based on the trailers and what I've seen in pictures as well, it is going to be in the United States of America. So it's not going to be as far as I know from Far Cry, because between you and I actually haven't played any of the Far Cry games. So I'm really novice on that, if not noob. So with Far Cry, as far as I know, it's always been in different countries other than the US. Now this time it's going to be in the United States. So that could be sort of an interesting sort of afterthought and what their take on the EOS would be with the Far Cry world.
Could be very interesting, because they've always been, with the exception of number 1, which happened on secluded islands, they've all been war-torn countries.
Exactly. From what I've understood. So yeah, it's always been non sort of developed countries. You could probably say second world or third world countries. TKReaper, again, I've sort of don't know your sort of repertoire in terms of gaming. Have you ever played the Far Cry series?
Yeah, I played the first 2, and like Goddard, absolutely loved the first one. I thought like the story behind it was, it was something different. It was out of this world. It was really unique, and that's what kind of really drew me into Far Cry originally. But then, like Goddard, I started playing the third one, and it just felt like it was just trying to be too much number 2, and that's kind of where I stopped with it. As regards for the trailer for the new one, which I did see because I just wanted to see where they're going to take it now. It's good to see it take place in the United States, and it has the story behind it with the characters that they have revealed. It has kind of piqued my interest a little bit, mainly because when I'm watching it, I just can't help but just think there's going to be a squeal like a piggy boy moment in it.
because of
What?
because it's sort of like because it's like the southern sort of
Exactly.
accent. It's like
Yes.
you better squeal like a pig.
Oh, I'm really hoping there is, because if they do put something in there like that, it would really add some enjoyment to it for me. But it's going to be interesting. Like, it does look like it's going to be a really good story, and they've set it out really good, and it looks like it's setting the base really well. But I'm not going to buy into it just yet.
Okay, totally fair enough. And with you, Smash and Grab, is this game going to be on your radar? Considering I know that I mean, you probably game. I think comparing with myself, you game a lot more than I do. But I'm curious: has Far Cry sort of always been sort of one of your games to play, or is
Yeah,
it
well,
not really?
like Gottard and TK kind of touched on, man. I've been with it from the first game. You know, back when that CryEngine was kind of the benchmark, especially for PC gamers. It was like, man, if you could run Far Cry and everything on Ultra, you'd spend a lot of money on your rig. You know?
Nah, man, Crisis 1.
Well, yeah. Well, it was the same engine, wasn't it? You know. It's funny. Like 3 for me,
almost.
I didn't like 3. But 4 is my favorite in the series. That setting in like the Kathmandu kind of area. I mean, it has those same kind of Ubisoft tropes with, like Assassin's Creed, where you go to the tower and unlock some more of your map and go and hit that stuff up. Which I don't know. I'm the sort of player who likes to do that. Like, I like to see my map and know where everything is and go and start collecting shit.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know, the idea that it's set in, I mean, the square like a pig thing's kind of funny. You know, the southern states. Montana's like a northern state. It borders with Canada, so kind of the opposite end of the country. But it looks like a Ruby Ridge kind of Waco. Like some kind of weird cult shit going on. It's being pretty quickly politicized, which is funny considering no one knows anything about the narrative really. So I don't know, man. I've seen a lot of people getting real angry about saying, Ubisoft, they putting this game out and you get to go and kill white Christians, and that's so bad. Look at the world today. You should be killing brown people or whatever. And it's like, yo, man, I played a first-person shooter that came out in the last 20 years. It's been basically everyone that you've killed. Like, I don't know. I guess people don't like looking in the mirror and seeing how ugly they are. So. It'll be,
it's really interesting that you say that, considering most of the stuff that I've seen promotional material, it feels like it could be something like that, but at the same time I'm like, man, it's a video game.
That's right.
Like people.
And if you look at those, like, there's been some crazy moments in American history where this kind of these cults like these have taken over like small communities, and the ATF or whatever have gone in to try and shut it down and basically failed miserably. So yeah, it's exciting. I think it's good that Ubisoft to try something different.
Why not? Yeah, considering that they've had some successes with For Honor and they still had the continued success with Rainbow Six Siege, despite them having to actually do a bit of a delay on their works for that with Operation Health. But I'll talk about that in sort of my sort of gaming videos. But it could be interesting considering that, yeah, they did, and I think they also had quite a bit of success with Far Cry Primal.
Well, I think
when it came out, but
they did that Blood Dragon as well, which was like a DLC. And I kind of felt like, I thought Primal should have been marketed more like Blood Dragon, because I mean there was a lot of controversy when Primal came out, because it was basically they just redone the assets in 4. The map was entirely the same, so it was almost like DLC than a standalone game, but they were charging a full price for it.
At full price.
Yeah.
I remember that a little bit. Yeah, that was.
I'd forgotten about Blood Dragon. But yeah, that
was a great game, Oh,
it was good fun, but like, come on, shooting dragons with laser guns and a bow.
Exactly.
Come on.
It's not a $60 game, but it's a $30 game, Like,
yeah.
The justifications were sort of all over the place. Now we'll just sort of move on the last sort of gaming now, just sort of bordering a bit of movies and TVs. It has been confirmed that the latest Spider-Man actor, Tom Holland, has now been confirmed as Nathan Drake for the, I should say, quite troubled Uncharted movie. Now, what I mean by untroubled is because Uncharted has supposed to have been flying off the ground since I think 2009, 2010 or something like that. It's been in the works for a long time, but there's just been a lot of directors jumping out, people showing interest and then bailing. But now that they've got Tom Holland, star of course, the latest Spider-Man, or upcoming, pardon me, Spider-Man Homecoming movie, and of course he was in the Avengers, this could be an interesting approach to getting the movie greenlit or confirmed proper greenlit and get it filming. I want to start off with myself talking about this first because Uncharted is a very dear franchise to me, and I've done a playthrough of 1, 2, 3, and 4 on my channel as well on YouTube, and I've loved it. I've loved the aspect of it. I don't give a shit that people say that, oh, he's the male version of Lara Croft. I don't care. Like, I just love the franchise. I love Nolan North and the characters that were brought upon it. And my take on Tom Holland being Nathan Drake is, at first it was mixed because I knew when it was confirmed that this then is going to be a prequel to possibly Uncharted, the first game, which was Uncharted. Drake's Fortune, sorry, which was back in 2008. So it's going to be going to a younger version or a younger prequel, whatever the hell it could be. But at the same time, Tom Holland has come a long way. He's a young kid, and at the time of this recording, he actually has just turned 20. So this kid, he looks great in Spider-Man. He was great in the Avengers as his cameo as Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and he could do Nathan Drake justice. But I just don't like the fact that we could be looking at Nathan Drake as a prequel to him as being a kid. But who knows? I want to begin with you, SMASHnGRAB, because I know that you've played Uncharted as much as I have. What are your thoughts on Tom Holland being the face of this iconic character, considering Nolan North is the voice, but Tom Holland will be the face?
I think it's super smart. It's a real good decision. Like, if you video game adaptations to film, there have basically been none that have been good. You know, we talked earlier about Resident Evil 1 and 2. Sure, you know, we can give those a pass, but the engagement with narrative that you experience in a video game is very difficult to put on screen. So I think
yes,
if they went straight up and did Uncharted 1, for example, and cast someone who looked like Nathan Drake. I mean, Mark Wahlberg was at one point rumored to play him.
Yes.
You know, you're going to have people drawing those comparisons where it's like, he doesn't sound like Nathan Drake, or he doesn't look like Nathan Drake, or it's not as good as the game. By going to this younger version of Nathan Drake, which they touched on in Uncharted 4, there was a couple of levels where you played as a younger Drake with his brother, where you're escaping like an orphanage or something, if I recall.
And Sam in Uncharted 3 as well.
Yeah, that's true. You know, I think you kind of give yourself a bit of freedom from the fans, I think, which will help, I think.
And the funny thing is, because now that I think about just mentioning Uncharted 3, actually, no, that's a lie. I thought about this when I first heard it confirmed. He kind of looks like Uncharted 3 younger Drake. So Drake, you know, in Uncharted 3, spoilers, you know, he there's a younger version of him. You play him, you find out about his name, you meet him and what he does and how he actually meets another character called Sully. Tom Holland actually kind of looks like he could be that version of Drake. Do you remember playing in Uncharted 3 those particular levels when he was younger?
Oh yeah,
like that face.
It's like Naughty Dog are one of my favorite studios, man. They make really good games, you know. So
agreed.
I'm all for anything that they put out, including Crash Bandicoot.
Yes, agreed.
So yeah, look, I think it's smart, you know. You know, you got a young actor who's kind of, you know, getting on the up and up. If Spider-Man does well, he'll be a household name. It's, you know, he'll have bank. So yeah, I think it's smart.
The world is his oyster. What about you, Gottard? What are your thoughts on, say, you know, Uncharted going into a movie that's going to have this young blood and finally be sort of maybe coming out as a movie? Is Uncharted something that you know, you would want to invest in as a game as well, or do you think that this could be, or do you possibly think that this could be sort of a flop, considering that, like SMASHnGRAB said, game adaptations into movies just sort of just fall horribly.
Yeah. Yeah, as you touched on, I haven't actually played any of the Uncharted games. I'm a Tomb Raider fan, well, up until the more recent ones. But yeah, game adaptations generally fall flat. But I think you mentioned that they're getting the original voice actor, but they've got a different physical actor. Is that what you were saying?
No, what I was mentioning is that in the games, Nolan North was the voice actor. He was the voice of Nathan Drake, but with the movie that apparently seems to be greenlit for Tom Holland is most likely, if it does successfully, or once it comes to print the movie, he will be like the face of Uncharted. So I just thought that, I sort of posing the question. Do you think that this could be a movie that could excel, or do you think it just could be another game adaptation into a movie that may fail?
I have to say it's unlikely to succeed very well. Considering they are getting a good actor, though, I have to say he's a pretty good actor. I've only seen him in one role personally, but yeah, it might work, because most game adaptations you find they get new actors, or they get actors that they're either new actors or they're actors that are well known but they're not really fitting the role. So we'll just have to see.
And then with you, TKReaper, with the news of Tom Holland as Nathan Drake, what are your sort of thoughts on, say, in the regards of being sort of an action sort of move, that this most likely is probably going to be an action sort of movie with a touch of adventure, and Uncharted is sort of a franchise that is very much compared to even the Indiana Jones of gaming. What are your thoughts of a movie coming out with maybe this sort of new young blood?
Yeah, well, first off, just glad that you kind of clarified with Goddard that whole physical actor voiceover thing, because I was just literally visualizing those really horrible TV commercials you see where they had the actor and they got a voiceover and it just looks really stupid. So I'm glad I got my head out of that one. So that was really good. Really, as we've all said, game to movie adaptations kind of hit and miss and fall flat on their face. But I can see, honestly, Tom Holland, going from what we've seen of him in, the Avengers and his little cameo appearance there, and in Captain America, he's got the ability to do that kind of like action adventure kind of physicality that will be required of him. So I can see him, because I haven't played Uncharted myself, but as you've explained, in certain stages you play him as a young person in the orphanage trying to escape and trying to jump out and things like that. So I can see him doing that really, really well. But I will be honest and just give out my brutal, safety net to Tom in saying, just be careful where you're putting your pennies. Eventually he's going to be associated with one or the other roles, and he doesn't want to really ruin his reputation before it's really kicked off.
Totally understandable. So that sort of wraps it up for the mini sort of topic stuff. Now we're going to get to the chunkier part of the show, where we're going to talk extensively about a main topic. I know we've been going for quite a while with some of these things, but hey, it's a podcast. Sue me. The main topic that we're going to be jumping in today, and the reason why I brought in SMASHnGRAB is, the topic is, are superheroes / superheroines oversaturating media today? Now, I want to actually begin myself on this just a little bit, on my take on it, because with superheroes, superheroines, DC, Marvel, there's a lot of that going on, and right now we're in 2017. Ever since the first Iron Man movie, or even before Iron Man movies, all those other Marvel stuff, but it has picked up since Iron Man. There's been quite a lot of superheroes. My take on it is that I'm getting a little bit fatigued by it. Don't get me wrong, I love that, there's a lot of stuff coming out, including at this time now, and we did mention it before. At the time of this recording, Wonder Woman would have just been released, and that's apparently doing very well, and I'm definitely going to be seeing that soon. But I digress. Superheroes and superheroines, is there too much of it? And I think I'm getting quite tired of it. There is also, confirmation that in the DC universe for TV series, Black Lightning is going to be coming out. Now, don't get me wrong, Black Lightning, again, characters of DC, they all have unique backstories. That's what makes them superheroes, sad stories, good stories, whatever. But is there too much of it now? So in video games, we've got a lot of... they've always been around in video games. Marvel, then you had PlayStation where they had the little statues of them. I think it was Disney 3D that they had that. And then, of course, Marvel, Doctor Strange, the movies, and then TV series, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's a lot that I can talk about. Luke Cage, the Defenders. There's a lot. So with those that... my point is, with those that are superheroes and superheroines, is the consumer is the people, running these sort of movies milking it for what it's worth, and the consumers are getting tired of it? Or does it work in hand with the argument that consumers are not getting tired of it and they just want more? It's a bit of a convoluted question I've just asked now, but I want to go with SMASHnGRAB first, because I believe that he, out of all three of us currently in this sort of, in this podcast now, has more knowledge of the world of comics and what is going on with this particular topic. So SMASHnGRAB, what are your thoughts on this? Because my take on it is a bit of a double-edged sword. I'm starting to get tired of it, but at the same time I'm like, I want more. So how do you feel about, an oversaturation of superheroes and superheroines?
Yeah, I think you kind of touched on some good points there. I think it's definitely, there's probably, from the business side of it, people are watching these, people are buying, going to pay to go see these movies or watch these TV shows. Let's cash in on that and make as many as we can while it's hot. There's definitely a degree of that. I think personally, like for me, as someone who loves comic books, the fact that these stories are getting told and they're being done justice and they're being done well, I'm stoked. Like, I remember watching countless adaptations that were garbage growing up. And it wasn't until probably, Blade, I think, was the first one I can think of off the top of my head where it was like genuinely good.
Oh, yeah. Wesley Snipes.
So now it's like, I think there is definitely an overkill. If you look at like from DC side of things with the CW, they've got all those shows going on, but then you've also got things like iZombie and Lucifer and Preacher that are all based on DC Comics. Marvel, Marvel's got like 5 other TV shows that are coming out in the next year that, that is going to be too much for people, probably with The Gifted, Cloak and Dagger, Runaways, Inhumans, like some of that Punisher.
Yes.
Punisher is going to do well because people know the Punisher and
yes.
Yeah, what we've seen so far of him in Daredevil has been exceptional. So some of them,
yes.
Some of them will probably be one season and out. Others, I think, could stick around. But yeah, there's just between now and the end of the year, we've probably got like four movies and like 3 new shows coming. So I don't know, man. Is it? I think Marvel's doing it really well, where they tend to be different. They're not superhero movies, They're if you look at something like The Winter Soldier, it's like an awesome kind of Cold War thriller, compared, rather than being like a superhero movie. So if they do that, if they give them, like, if they stand alone and they stand on their own 2 feet as good films whilst being part of the wider universe, then people will keep going to see them, And I'd say I'm stoked. I'll watch it all.
I definitely want to expand on that in a moment. I want to first get sort of the first sort of thoughts. This time we'll go with you, TK. With sort of what is going on now, in your opinion, is there an oversaturation of superheroes and superheroines in terms of, say, toys, video games, Netflix series, movies? What are your thoughts?
Well, like, to be honest, no. Like, I don't think there is. If you're going to look at it from everywhere it's coming from, it may be perceived as that. But when you look at who they're targeting for particular things, so, you know, they're pumping out all these toys. That's going to be definitely for the kids. There's going to be some big kids who are going to buy into it, but their target audience for toys is always going to be kids and younger kids. Movies and TV series, you know, they're going to be targeted for adults and children and all that. So from my perspective, no, they're not oversaturating it. They're playing their cards really well. They're pumping out what they need to pump out. They're targeting where they want to target, and it's drawing everyone in. And if they do it right, you know, they're gonna, you know, get great revenue from that and be able to continue putting into projects. And if something goes wrong, you know, they can always, you know, correct it down the line with the revenue that they have made. So short answer, no, I don't think they are.
But going away from business wise, still with you, TK.
Yeah.
Personally, for you, in terms of like Marvel movies, TV series, and whatnot, you know, how do you get the time to watch it all? I mean, and even if you did have that time, are you on a personal, are you committed to watching all of that when you can?
Oh, of course. Like I will find time wherever I can. Like I'm not always going to be at work. I don't have kids at the moment, so there's nothing distracting me when I am at home to do things. So as long as I'm paying my bills and washing my clothes, I'll always have time to find it.
So for you, there's no real fatigue in it?
Not for me, no. Like I pretty much steer clear of most general media anyway, because 90% of it's just wah wah, whinge, cry, more hysterica and fear-inducing bullshit that I don't buy into. So for me, I don't see it enough for it to even bother me or even bat an eye at. And most times, things I come across are either on social media, such as Facebook or Instagram, or even just passing by with someone at work, you know, out at lunchtime, and they're just like, "Oh, did you hear this is happening?" And if I didn't, I'd be like, "Oh, okay, no," and I'll look into it. So for me, no.
And you, Gottard, I mean, what are your thoughts on, say, superheroes and superheroines? I mean, are you actually getting fatigued by it, or is it again sort of like with SMASHnGRAB and TK? Is it just not an issue? I mean, if it comes out, will you be watching it whenever you can?
Personally, no. I love that there's so many superhero films coming out. I don't really see them as that. I just think of them of comic book films. So I was actually doing a bit of digging, and even though it does seem that there are a lot more superhero films coming out, there's also a lot of films in general coming out. There's a lot more than there was in previous years. But so sort of like the ratio might have gone up as well as the numbers, but it's not so much a saturation. I understand that there is a lot of TV shows and things being released. I personally don't really watch the TV shows. I stick to the films. But just how, I think it was Smash, wasn't it you who mentioned that Winter Soldier wasn't really a superhero film? Sort of a...
Yeah, I find that's kind of the case with a lot of the Marvel films, you know? They stand alone.
Because I came late to it, but I watched Doctor Strange recently, and I absolutely loved it. It wasn't a superhero film. It was a group of magicians, and they're all running around. And
in ways as well, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's actually really interesting. I was going to segue going back to what SMASHnGRAB was saying, that, you know, again, everyone is saying that they have no issue with it. It's not an oversaturation. But with Doctor Strange and one of those sort of arguments with, say, people who do say there's an oversaturation, Doctor Strange is a recent example where the YouTube channel on his trailers were talking about and comparing Doctor Strange, the movie, as an almost origin story of the first Iron Man film. Personally, when I watched Doctor Strange, I liked it, and I understood where it was coming from. But when I left the cinema, I was just like, I've sort of seen this already, and it feels like, okay, now we just have to see what happens afterwards, because it felt like an origin story. So what my question would be is, and this is an open question to anybody who answers first, when you look at, say, what's going on, and of course with all these super sort of hero TV series and movies coming out, yes, there has to be an origin story so then people would understand. But in the case of rehashing stories and saying that DC at this point in time now, unfortunately, are playing catch up because they've now managed to get Batman versus Superman, Superman, and Batman, Suicide Squad, and then now Wonder Woman. I mean, what more could there be in terms of like pushing out in terms of like movies? Like Guardians of the Galaxy as well is another one that a lot of people didn't know about, and then you have these enigmatic, actors and actresses doing it, and people are jumping on that sort of, that bandwagon because it's hit the medium. But when would be enough is enough? I mean, superhero. That would be my question, because superheroes we all idolize, but in terms of like stories and whatnot, can it run its course, or is it just going to go on forever?
Well, I mean, if you look at something like Superman, like that's a comic book that's been out and been published for probably on 80 years now, right? The fact that these characters are still resonating with people this long after they were created is it says something about the storytelling itself and the writing, that these are well-written characters and they're good stories. And I think as long as that, if they're being done on film, are being done respectfully and done with justice, people will come and see them, And it's we don't need to see Spider-Man's origin story again. Most people know Spider-Man's origin story. I hope we don't see it in Homecoming, Same with, Superman, same with Batman, So I think there's some characters where we can go, okay, cool, we know what the deal is with Spider-Man. Let's get into the core of the story. Whereas, something like Guardians, you said, or Doctor Strange, these characters that, unless you're a comic book reader, you probably don't know, then sure, take the time to do the origin stories, make them interesting and engaging. And, I think, we'll just keep writing it because it's awesome. We had like 10 years of shitty reality TV, and that's still going, man. So I'd rather watch a comic book TV show than some of that garbage.
Because it's really interesting that you talk about the part of origin story about like those characters, because I gotta admit, when I watched I was hankering to see Batman versus Superman, and then I never got around to it, and I heard about some reviews and people from word of mouth, and I got disenchanted. And then when I went to watch it, I was just like, okay. I was a little bit surprised that they went with that idea of connection where the mom's name is spoilers, the mom's Martha, and then we had unfortunately that sort of reveal of Wonder Woman in the movie. I kind of kicked myself for watching that trailer because I thought that would have been a grand sort of a sort of reveal, but that whole Martha thing was what sort of like, and then they repeated the scene of his parents dying. It's like, because with superheroes and stuff, I gotta say, like, for me, on a personal sort of note, like, sometimes I just don't have the time. There's so much out there that I want to see, but I just don't have much of the time. And secondly, I sometimes get disenchanted by people's talk of the series. So, say for example, like if somebody's talking way too much about Arrow, I'm just like, dude, like that's too much. And then if they say like Arrow, one of the Arrow episodes or some Arrow parts of Arrow was like, they got annoyed by it or whatever, I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, it's come to that stage where there's a lot of choice for me, and I'm kind of, and this is very unfair to say for quite a lot of people, but for me, this is the truth. I want to see something that is, I've had some feelings where I want to see something that is guaranteed to be entertaining. I'm sick of filler shit. Like filler shit. I'm sick of it. I get it in anime a lot, and I've gotten it in manga a lot, as well as some of the TV series. I just want some things to get to the point. So that's just sort of my take on it, I've just sort of run out of time because there's so much, and I know, that I can't get to it, so I actually watch people on YouTube or whatever give their take on it or their reactions to it, and then once they say it, I'm just like, okay, if it's really positive, I'll go for it, but if it's not, I'm like, I wish I can. So it's a really weird thing for me. But I just thought, has anybody ever? Nobody here. I'm curious because I feel like I've sort of said my piece. Like nobody's ever felt any sort of fatigue in terms of what has gone on with superheroes and superheroines.
Well, I myself, the only fatigue I've really felt is in the continuous, as you mentioned, they keep retelling the origin story. My hope is that they're done with that now. They've basically got most of their people. They've got an origin story with actors that they can continue with. And as Smash mentioned, 80 years of Superman. And all these comics have been running for decades. The thing is that in each of those comics, a lot of them are interwoven and in the same world. Each character is going through development and each world is going through development. So the way I see it is, so long as they are done with the origin stories, they can get into that meat and just tell, like, as you said, they can tell the story instead of filling, because there's so much story out there on these comic books.
That it could possibly could go on forever. What about you, TKReaper? So yourself in I was gonna say SMASHnGRAB, but I'll go with you first, TK. No sense of fatigue at all. I mean, if they pump it out, you're just going to watch it, and it's just no sense of fatigue, even for past movies or anything like that. If he's there, I think he disconnected before, but we'll get back to him. What about you, SMASHnGRAB? We'll go with you first. So there's never been, in your sort of world and sort of like, what you've been watching, like you said earlier, you would watch anything that comes sort of out, but have you had any sort of fatigue at all?
Like, we talked earlier about Resident Evil and the fatigue that as a franchise that movie kind of hit, 6, 7 films in or whatever it got to. As long as it's keeping fresh, like, and it's not going down those same tropes, like I personally, I think Marvel, has a real problem with villains, like a lot of their films, we're seeing the villain just being an evil version of the protagonist, with Hulk and Abomination, with Ironmonger and Iron Man, with Ant-Man and Yellow Jacket, so they, but then they have people like, you have characters like Loki, and we're, the big build up with Thanos at the moment. So if they, if we see some good villains coming through, I'd much rather have too many nerd things to choose from to watch than not enough, because you're always going to hit those times when you've got nothing to watch. You're like, oh, I got like 3 seasons of this show that's supposed to be pretty good. I can go back and watch. Like, yeah. And plus, that's actually, as a comic book collector, I love the fact that all this stuff's coming out, because it means a lot of my comics are jumping in value.
That's really interesting. That's really funny that you say, and interesting that you say about not being able to, if you have time and you watch something. Like, I know in the times that I've talked with you, you're like, oh, you've said to me, oh, have you seen, not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the one Agent Carter, and I'm like, oh, I haven't seen it yet, and I'm like, oh, what a lagger. I'm like, oh, I'll get to it, but I'm just like, there's sort of too much on my plate, but I know it's there. And funnily enough, I do have that somewhere around in my house. I'm just like, oh, I should really watch that.
But that's it, man.
It is there, but
we all
it's
have
just
only a certain amount of time that we can spend on disposable kind of things, like watching TV and playing games and that kind of stuff. So, everyone prioritizes things in a different order.
That's really interesting that you say, again, that's another really great point, because, and that really sort of key word there when you talk about disposable. It's really funny because some of the movies that I've been watching, whether they be on CD or digital, but mainly digital, if I watch them and I just don't think that they're worth collecting, I've just started, and I've only just started this a couple of weeks ago, I just shift delete. I'm like, nah, forget it. I've seen you, just whatever. Like, I've seen some dismal movies lately, like The Last Heist and shit. I'm like, nah, delete, disposable. But then there's this collection that I have of, like, Marvel stuff, and I do have Arrow, but I'm just like, haven't got to it yet. TK, you there?
Yes, I'm
Did you
back.
come back?
I'm back.
Oh, you're back. Perfect. My question to you, sorry, was what in all the times for say up until this point about superheroes and superheroines, have you ever had any fatigue whatsoever of it?
Just probably a little bit, like when they done you not the newest, but the Garfield Spider-Mans. Like I had my moment there where I was just kind of like, more Spider-Man, like really, for a split moment. But then I actually went and saw the film. Like didn't see it in cinemas. I saw it when it came out on DVD and online. So I watched it online, and I was kind of like, well, that wasn't as bad as I was expecting. So apart from that, no fatigue whatsoever.
Okay, totally understandable. So would we? As my sort of last question then on this sort of main topic is that possibly due to probably personal reasons for me alone, it seems as if that almost unanimously, like, there's no real saturation about sort of superheroes. Like, the more that they pump out, the more that everybody will see. Are we sort of in an agreement of that, or?
Yeah, I think we all are.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I think and Goddard kind of nailed it on the head when he said, what they're doing that's real smart is targeting their shows to different demographics. So I think it's like Cloak and Dagger that's coming out soon. It's a Marvel show, and it's clearly like aimed at a teenage audience. So to me, it doesn't resonate with me. And like, oh man, I've got to watch this story. They're not characters I'm awfully familiar with. It doesn't look like the kind of, but again, it's set within a universe that I am familiar with. So, if it was on, I would watch it.
Okay. Well, that brings it for that particular main topic of our show. Now we're almost done, but we come to this part of the show where I ask everybody around the panel here, considering we're quite busy with 4 people, what suggestions they would like to make, or what they've been seeing lately that maybe you can watch or you can listen to or play. So I want to begin with you, Gottard. Is there any sort of form of medium, say anime, games, movies that you've played or seen recently that you'd like to suggest?
I think I only really have the one at the moment, which is Doctor Strange. If you haven't seen it, I'd recommend it. It is a magic film set in the Marvel universe, and I think I quite enjoyed it. It was something new.
Okay, and it fits perfectly well with segueing from the previous topic as well, so I like it. What about you, TKReaper? Is there anything that you'd like to suggest? Any sort of movies that you've seen recently? Any sort of games you've played, or anime you've seen, or anything like that?
Well, seeing as you and I are going to be touching on it later on, it's probably going to be really entertaining. I'm looking forward to it. Definitely, if it's still out there, go out and see Alien Covenant. I'm not going to get too much detail right now because this is going to be for you and me, but definitely get out and see it. It is worth seeing, to be honest. Like, whether you're a fan of the series or not, purely honestly, just to see Danny McBride absolutely nail a actual serious role, it's worth seeing it just for that.
That I agree on, and we'll definitely be talking about that in our other episode as well, which will be coming up soon. What about you, SMASHnGRAB? I know anime, games, those are your mediums. But is there anything that's sort of stand out that you want to suggest to people to watch or play or anything like that, or even read?
Yeah, I mean, kind of sticking on the comic thing, I picked up Injustice 2 recently, which is NetherRealm's new fighting game. So they're the guys that did more. So Injustice is basically the same engine for Mortal Kombat, but with a bunch of DC characters. So you can fight Batman versus Superman, that kind of stuff. What's really, really cool about what they've done with the sequel is almost put like an RPG kind of element into it, I guess, where you unlock different kits in pieces. So you can basically customize your character for a fighting game with different boots, different helmets, different armor. Yeah, and create these like crazy builds. And then like what they've done in that regard is the whole DC multiverse. So you jump into this multiverse that basically populates your enemies with completely random variations of Batman and whatnot. And it's like it's a crazy fun game for a fighting game. And I know, we used to have, when we worked together, Janice, we had a few Street Fighter tournaments at work. I know you're into your fighting games, man. So yeah, definitely check that out. Injustice 2.
Yeah, because actually it's really interesting again from the previous main topic. Injustice, man, that first game was pretty good and the story was interesting. Was an interesting take. Like Jesus. Like damn Superman. So with the story that comes out with Injustice 2, again I won't reveal too much of the story. There's no spoilers here. But what I was amazed with, because I watched a famous Twitcher, if you guys ever get it is a shout out to him, Maximilian Dude, an American. I watched him and his boys of the Your Video Games crew play the story mode, and I gotta say, like looking at the visuals, including the facial expressions, and then the camera work, and including the lead up to each battle in the story mode, I gotta agree with all of them that was saying that it looked unprecedentedly brilliant. It just looked amazing. Definitely with Black Canaries yelling, as well as the facial expressions for, Supergirl, and even the design of Poison Ivy. Like, good lord, Injustice. I almost completely forgot about that. So that is a really great suggestion.
It's funny.
SMASHnGRAB. So
you touched on there's definitely been a lot of light recently on facial animation in video games. But it's cool to see that these guys with the DC characters, they're getting into the ballpark of almost Uncharted kind of levels of performance capture.
Interestingly enough, and I think that now that you say it, that Naughty Dog has they've set the bar. I said it long ago, even off the record, months ago, and the last time I spoke to you, like, they've set the bar. In terms of facial animations, The Last of Us, Uncharted, oh man, the video game industry, I think I've got to be thanking them. But then again, that's my bias towards it. My suggestions for this month is Alien Covenant. In terms of anime, I've been looking at an old one, just revisiting Cowboy Bebop. So if you guys haven't seen that, definitely get into it as well. It's a science fiction sort of opera kind of anime. And then recently I've gone into, and I cannot remember if I said this in the last podcast, but I've gone into some Warhammer games. So Warhammer, the first game, and I'm working my way up to Warhammer 40,000 on PC, so Steam. So been playing the real-time strategy game. So I've been sort of filling in my time with that. But yeah, those are suggestions. That is going to wrap up the show. I really want to thank SMASHnGRAB for dropping by, considering that it is quite late, I believe, there. It's almost 11 o'clock there now? Is it?
Yeah,
11?
It's Friday night, man. I don't have to work, so I appreciate you having me along, and good time.
Yeah, and of course, really happy that Gottard and TKReaper could make it as well, considering that we are recording at a bit of a different time. We usually do it, I think, in the mid-afternoons, but, I wanted to get it fresh with SMASHnGRAB for the time difference. So again, I want to thank them for coming by, and on behalf of them, I want to say thank you for listening, because, I know a lot of people that haven't made any comments in the previous sort of podcasts are enjoying this kind of stuff, so we'll be punching out each comment, sort of commentating on what's been happening in the month, every month. So be sure to see us in June, considering that we're running this now in June. So see us later this month. We will be running down all those news. So on behalf of TKReaper, Gottard, and our special guest SMASHnGRAB, I'm Janice from the Janice Project, saying, remember, aerial savagery attacks when you least expect it, and we will see you guys soon. Bye-bye.